groups of people who had been drawn to the vicinity by the sight of flashing blue lights. Several onlookers stared at her in irritation as she sounded her horn to clear the route ahead. When she reached the turning area at the end of the lane, she leant out of the window and spoke to the uniformed officer at the gate. "Get the barrier moved right back to the pier entrance, Jack, and get all these people behind it. We can't have the access road clogged up by crowds of sightseers." He nodded and spoke into his radio. "OK, ma'am, you can drive on through to the lookout area. Sergeant Marsh is waiting for you there. I'll get a new barrier set up as soon as someone comes to give me a hand." She drove onto the grass and parked her car tight up against the tower's fence. Marsh was waiting, hunched inside a thick jacket. She got out of the car, slipped out of her shoes and pulled on the familiar pair of pink Wellington boots. A brief smile flickered across his face. "I saw that, Barry. Lucky for you it's not grounds for dismissal. Give me the details, please." Detective Sergeant Barry Marsh nodded. "It's good to see you again, ma'am. Someone spotted a middle-aged woman's body among the rocks, just below the high tide line." Allen did not turn. Her short, fair hair blew slightly in the breeze. "Who found her?" "A couple out for an early morning walk, almost 2 hours ago. They called in on a mobile, and Jen Albright came down. She wasn't happy with what she found, so she asked for the police doctor to take a look and for me to come. There's bruising around her face and head, but it doesn't look right for battering against the rocks. She's wearing clothes, but she's got ankle boots on, with fairly high heels. The doctor's down there at the moment." "OK, let's take a look." The two detectives made their way through the rocks to a group of figures hunched over a tide pool some yards short of the waterline. Sophie recognized Mark Benson, the local police doctor. He was crouched low over the body, carefully examining the facial injuries. He turned as he heard the approaching footsteps. "Your people were right to call me in, Sophie. I think some of these head wounds occurred before she died. They had time to clot. The bruising is deep and shows signs of good blood flow to the area. So are also prior to death. There's a deep wound at the back of the head." "Could she have fallen and got the head injuries that way? Concussion from the first stumble, if she fell heavily? If she was unconscious, she'd have drowned once the tide came in." "It's a possibility, but I really can't speculate. One thing I did notice is that the head wounds look as if something blunt was involved, and all the rocks at this spot are well-rounded." The young constable, Jen Albright, spoke up. "Ma'am, she wouldn't have tried to walk down here in those heels, surely. It's so rocky. She would have tripped up as soon as she came off the grass, and even there she'd have been sinking in. She'd have fallen long before she got to the water." Sophie looked at the heels. They were practically stilettos. "What was the weather like here yesterday?" "It rained all morning and only dried up mid-afternoon," Marsh replied. "So the turf up there must be pretty soft, and there's no mud on her boots, though I suppose it might have been washed off somehow. How far did the tide come in?" "It looks as though it got up to her waist. Her head and face might have been under. That's what the couple who spotted her saw. Her arms and hair moving as the waves broke over her, but her legs are still mostly dry," he replied. Sophie felt inside the pockets of the woman's jacket, but found nothing. A shoulder bag with thin straps was lying partly under her chest, and Sophie eased it away and peered inside. She spotted a purse, a set of keys, a hairbrush and a small perfume sprayer, but no mobile phone. She felt inside the jacket and realized that there was nothing between it and bare skin. She turned to Marsh and spoke quietly. "She doesn't have any clothes on under this jacket, and her jeans are not fully zipped up. You were right to be suspicious. The forensic unit is on its way, so we'll leave the body to them. Let's have a quick look around to see if there's anything lying about." "There were people up on the grass as we arrived. I got them back quickly, but they'll have trampled over any tracks," said Albright. "I'm sure you did your best, but we'll have a look anyway. The area just below the bank won't have been stamped on, so we'll look at that first." By the time the forensic squad arrived, the tide had retreated well away from the body. It looked